I transitioned socially at 15, I started hormones at 17, and I detransitioned just after my 22nd birthday. But I think it's important that when we talk about these issues, to really understand that people like us are not just statistics. We're not just some dry data some gatekeeping doctor might throw at you. You know, we're real people. This is a real outcome of transition. I'm a real, live 22-year-old woman with a scarred chest and a broken voice and 5 o'clock shadow because I couldn't face the idea of growing up to be a woman. That's my reality. So the first point that Serano makes touches on the distinction between transgender and transsexual. Serano says that transgender means anyone who defies societal expectations regarding gender. What? So my mom, who uses power tools and wears pants to church, is transgender. My brother, who used to have waist-length hair and would get mistaken for a girl all the time when he was little, he's transgender, I guess. God, I've got a buzz cut. I'm not wearing any makeup. I don't even remember the last time I shaved my legs. God, fuck. I need to stop making this video, guys. I'm sorry. I've got some calls I need to make to my endocrinologist. I'm kidding. But seriously, nobody conforms to gender roles perfectly because they're made up. We made them up. They're not real. My clothing, my hair, my feelings, my behavior, that's all part of my personality. It's part of my womanhood. I'm not a woman because of how well I relate to a construct that was created to keep people like me subservient and subordinate. It's not a thing. So with that in mind, I want to talk about Serano's idea of transsexual trajectories. The article discusses a few different situations. There's a classic, I knew I was trans since I was 3 years old narrative. There's the people who adopt a trans identity in adolescence or in later life. There's people who transition in a binary way and then end up calling themselves non-binary or genderqueer. And then there's us. For some reason, we're a type of transsexual trajectory. I'm gonna be blunt here, that's bullshit. It's designed to obfuscate our reality. It's designed to make us non-threatening. Just another type of trans person. Just a transition with a few more steps in it. Just some happy little identity to fit under our big happy trans umbrella. The idea that we could exist outside of the paradigm of gender identity is so threatening to trans activists that they won't even speak of it. They prefer pretending that we're still somehow trans to recognizing the reality of our situation because, frankly, these situations are not pretty. Serano mentions a couple of reasons why people might detransition, but they're honestly pretty hollow. Either we just vaguely weren't happy with the changes, or we do it for social reasons. This makes me think that Serano has not spoken to any detransition people, or at least not any detransition women. I can't speak to the experience of detransition men because I'm not a detransition man and I don't interact with that community. But from my admittedly limited experience, I think detransition due to social pressure is largely a thing that men do. I've never heard a detransition woman say she did it because of social pressure, and I know quite a few. I didn't detransition due to social pressure. In fact, I live in one of the most trans-friendly areas of the U.S. My family was accepting, I was passing, almost all my paperwork was changed, my insurance covered my mastectomy 100%. They would have covered everything. They would have covered my hysterectomy, they would have covered bottom surgery. My job has trans people in its leadership, and from all outer appearances, my transition was a success. But I didn't detransition because of nebulous unhappy feelings either. I detransitioned because I knew I couldn't keep running from myself, dissociating from myself, because acknowledging my reality as a woman was vital to my mental health. I mean, I'm happier being detransitioned, but saying that people detransition because they're not happy with transition is disingenuous. The truth is that a lot of women don't feel like they have options. There's not a whole lot of place in society for women who look like this, for women who don't fit, who don't comply. When you go to a gender therapist and tell them you have these kinds of feelings, they don't tell you that it's okay to be butch, to be gender nonconforming, to not like men, to not like the way that men treat you. They don't tell you that there are other women who feel like they don't belong, that don't feel like they know how to be women. They don't tell you any of that. They tell you about testosterone, that's about it. Transition is not the only way or even necessarily the best way to treat gender dysphoria. When I was transitioning, I felt a strong desire, what I would have called a need at the time, to transition. Sereno doesn't really distinguish between social and physical dysphoria as many trans people do, but I had both. And it was not weeks or months that I stayed on hormones before I realized I needed to stop. I was on testosterone for over 3 years cumulatively. I know women who were on testosterone 3, 4, 5, even 10 years before they realized that they needed to stop. It can be damn hard to figure out that the treatment you're being told is to help you is actually making your mental health worse. Testosterone made me even more dissociated than I already was, so I was all, wow, I don't feel those negative emotions anymore. I mean, I don't really feel too much else either, but who cares? I'm thriving. I didn't even realize that I needed to detransition until I'd already decided to stop testosterone for mental health reasons. I'm not trans. I'm not just non-binary or taking a non-normative transition path or whatever. I'm a woman. Transition was a maladaptive coping mechanism. It's not part of my identity. There's a world of nuance between telling a child, no, you're a girl, you have to do girl stuff, and saying, yeah, you can do this stuff, but it makes you not a girl. I can't speak to the responses of people who've never transitioned or, again, to detransition men, but I can tell you I've never heard a detransition woman say that we should be using reparative therapy. Most of us did transition due to gender nonconformity, either in whole or in part. A lot of us are lesbians. We're not going to be advocating for fucking reparative therapy. Detransition is not about retraining ourselves to conform. It's about accepting our nonconformity as part of our womanhood, rather than, taking it as a sign that we were meant to be men. The last point I want to make has to do with Serano's dismissal of the 80% desistance rate. When you say, why does this desistance rate even matter, you demonstrate your extreme callousness towards the trauma that we experienced going through transition. Obviously, statistics are flawed. They can be skewed, they can lie. But where are your statistics? I'm all for critiquing science and its use in oppressive rhetoric, but when you don't have anything to refute the claim but an anecdote of your own life when you're not detransitioned, no. That's not a rebuttal. That's not really anything. I wish I could tell you that I had all the solutions. I don't. I don't know how we can find a model of care that works for both trans activists and for dysphoric people who aren't helped by transition. I don't know if such a model exists. But so long as trans activists continue to ignore the growing contingent of detransition people, especially those individuals who transitioned underage like I did, we're never going to find it. You may not agree with us, but the fact is that we exist. We're going to continue to exist, and our numbers are growing. In the last year that I've been in, either lurking in or actually involved in the detransition community, I have seen our numbers growing exponentially. Sooner or later, we're going to have to start making changes. Sooner or later, you're not going to be able to ignore us any longer.